What's going on, Chemical Guys friends and family? Thanks so much for tuning in for today's episode of Chemical Guys Detail Garage. Today we're going to be showing you how to properly restore clarity to your headlights, whether you have oxidized or failing UV protectants or they just look a little hazy on this 1998 Chevy S10. Now to begin, we're going to obviously clean them off. That gets rid of the loose dirt and debris, which we've done by giving it a car wash. And now we're going to move on to the sanding process where we knock down the failing clear coat on there or the failing UV protectant or any of the dead plastic. This way we can get an even key over the entire surface. And we're going to be starting off using a 2000 grit sandpaper, which we've already attached to one of our flexible backing plates here. And I'm going to use clay lubber, but you can also use just regular water as your lubricant as you sand. This helps to not only clean away any of the old plastic, but it also helps the sandpaper from binding or getting caught up in one area. But it's going to come off kind of milky, or it's going to look yellow, and that's all the grime and years of oxidation coming off of the surface. This is going to, again, restore clarity. And again, this is going to restore clarity because years of being outside or UV rays will damage the effects of it, and that kind of limits its ability to see at night or give you perfect brightness. So what we're going to do is use a cross-hatching pattern going up and down and then side to side to ensure that we remove an even amount of the top layer. Now if you wanted to get really in depth, you could also remove the headlight completely and then do it on a table or a bench. If you wanted to get really in depth, you could also remove the nubs here, which are from the factory for alignment, but for today's purposes, we're just going to leave those on there. But that'll be a great way to get an even surface to polish, because as you use your machine, it's going to eat up the pad on these little nubs because they are hard plastic. So if you want to avoid that, it's just real simple to knock them down with a file or a Dremel tool. This way, again, you have that smooth surface to start with. Now you can see here we have just a light haze starting. And now the headlight feels very smooth, and that's because we have an even amount of removal of the dead surface. And you can always, again, go over it with a second pass if you need to, or if you see high spots or if there's areas that don't match. But for this purpose, they look very smooth. For the overall purpose, I think we got the same look across the whole headlight. So now we're going to refine it using a 3000 grit sandpaper. In the same process, we're using the clay lubber to moisten the pad. Also clean away any of the material that comes off. This also helps take out some of the scratches that was made by the 2500 grit sandpaper or the 2000 grit sandpaper. You also see that I taped around the headlight. This is just to ensure that I don't scratch any of the plastic chrome pieces or the paint. Also, it kind of prevents from staining any of the rubber or textured plastic surfaces. We're just going to use that same cross-hatching pattern, top to bottom, side to side, working around the nubs. And I'm only using about the weight of my hand, maybe just a little bit more pressure to ensure that we're removing material. Getting that same even key over the headlight. And you can use the same process for your turn signals, your fog lamps, your tail lights, basically any kind of optical plastic. This is a great alternative to replacing your headlight, especially on a car like this, where it's probably not too expensive to replace them, but for original purposes, we'll just repair it rather than replace it. So now we'll take our towel here and check our work. Just a light haze, but this is the proper steps to removing the dead plastic or the oxidation that was on there. This way we can polish it and restore perfect clarity. Which brings up a good point onto our next step. You can either use a dual action polisher, a rotary, or just a single drill. And what we're going to use is a 3-inch backing plate with a 3-inch orange pad to polish off the excess or the scratches that we've made here, just to kind of refine it and bring back some of that clarity using V34, and we're going to jump on that right now. So today we're going to be using a drill motor, which we have here. It's also a variable speed, which is going to make it easier to spread and also polish. And again, we're using a 3.5-inch hex-logic orange pad. This is our cutting pad or cutting polishing pad. We'll make sure it's as centered as possible so it's not making a huge mess. Close enough. And we're going to be starting off with V34, which is a hybrid compound. This helps to diminish any scratches or any kind of swirls on your paint as well as on your plastics. Shake the bottle, and since we're only using the headlight here, we'll just do about 3 dime-sized dots, or about the size of 1 hex. And just like with any polishing job, we're going to work this in until it goes translucent or clear. And that's when we know when to buff off or pull away, check our work. We'll use some pad conditioner to help moisten the pad because this is going to generate a lot of heat because it is technically a rotary. And this also helps to cut down any of the dusting so that we're not making a huge mess over the rest of the car, because that's a pet peeve of mine when you're polishing and you get it in the jams or into the grill. It's just a mess. So by reducing the dusting, it kind of helps to eliminate some of the cleanup later on. Now we're going to start by blotching it out, and then on the lowest speed setting, we're going to spread this out, or as slow as we can get it to spin. And then on a moderately higher speed, we're going to work it in until it goes basically clear, and then we can check our work. And as you saw, the V34 broke down fairly quickly because we are using a rotary, which it spins very fast, which means it's going to obviously correct and cut very fast. Now the headlight feels very smooth. You can actually leave it at this level, but for further refinement, we're going to knock it down using a white pad in V36 just to ensure that there's no fine hairline scratches or anything else left behind, or maybe some kind of sanding marks we may have missed. But this is going to be the same process to refine it further using the V36 as we used with the V34. Start by removing the pad, and now we're going to attach our white hex-logic pad, which is our finishing polishing pad. And then we're going to use 3 of the dime-sized drops of V36, which is again our cutting polish. We'll do about a dime-sized or 3 dime-sized dots. And then we'll spread it out. First, we'll put some pad conditioner. Whoops. And then we'll spread it out. And in the same process, we'll bump it up to the higher speed setting, and then we can diminish it. And then we'll wipe away any of the excess. Then we need to protect it because just like your paint, now you've exposed a fresh layer, which means that oxidation or fallout can quickly clot and cover the entire surface, giving you that hazy look or that rough feel. So it's important to protect it and also maintain that by adding a sealant or a wax or some kind of coating periodically, maybe as often as once every 3 months, or maybe even sooner if you live in an area where it gets very hot, or if you leave your car outside a lot, something like that too. So again, the same thing, we're going to spread it out, and then we're going to use the higher speed setting to polish it until it goes clear. And there we have it. Now it's simply restored it, very easy to do, and it's a lot more efficient, or at least cost efficient, rather than replacing it, especially on some of the newer cars where headlights can range from $100 to a few $100s depending on the kind of car you have. So very easy to do. That almost anyone can do this as long as you have the patience to do it correctly. And now you have that perfectly restored clarity. And now to finish it off, we're going to apply a layer of jet seal, which is going to give this up to 12 months of protection while also enhancing some of that shine and clarity. And it's very simple to do. We're also going to use it by hand with a applicator pad. We'll just spread it out, give it about 10 minutes to cure to the surface, and then wipe off the excess. So if you guys liked today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, drop your comments down below. I know you guys want to get your headlights looking their best, so head over to chemicalguys.com to pick up your products. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey,